At 62, retired teacher Diana Walsh stood in her cluttered living room, surrounded by 40 years of accumulated possessions, feeling overwhelmed and trapped in her own home. She couldn't find important documents, had clothes she hadn't worn in decades, and felt embarrassed to invite friends over. But in just 6 months, Diana transformed her chaotic space into a peaceful sanctuary that sparked joy every morning. The secret? 7 simple decluttering habits that didn't require hiring expensive organizers or spending weeks sorting through everything at once. These aren't your typical, throw everything away, methods. They're gentle, senior-friendly approaches that honor your memories while creating space for your future. Ready to discover how Diana reclaimed her home and her peace of mind? I'm about to share the exact 7 decluttering habits that completely transformed Diana's life after 60, and they can work for you too, regardless of how overwhelming your space feels right now. Diana had tried traditional decluttering methods before, the ones that tell you to get rid of everything you haven't used in a year. But they never stuck because they didn't account for the emotional attachments we develop over decades of living. These 7 habits are different. They're designed specifically for seniors who want to create more space and peace without feeling like they're erasing their life's history. Each habit takes just 10-15 minutes a day, and you can start with whichever one feels most manageable for you right now. By the end of this video, you'll have a clear roadmap that respects your pace, your memories, and your unique situation. But before we dive in, I want to hear from you. What's the biggest decluttering challenge you're facing right now? Drop it in the comments because I read every single one, and your struggles might be exactly what someone else needed to hear today. Now, let's discover how Diana went from feeling trapped to feeling free in her own home. Number 1. The 10-minute morning memory sort. Diana's first breakthrough came when she stopped trying to tackle entire rooms and started with just 10 minutes each morning. But here's the key, she wasn't just randomly sorting through stuff. She created what she called her memory sort system. Every morning with her coffee, Diana would choose one small area, maybe a single drawer, a shelf, or even just a corner of her kitchen counter. She'd set a timer for 10 minutes and sort everything into 3 categories. Keeps my heart happy, useful today, and ready to bless someone else. The magic wasn't in the sorting itself, it was in how she approached each item. Instead of asking, "Do I need this?" which often led to guilt and indecision, she asked, "Does this item help me live the life I want today?" This simple shift changed everything. When Diana found her daughter's elementary school art projects mixed in with important tax documents, she didn't feel pressured to throw them away. She moved them to a special memory box and cleared the drawer for documents she actually needed to access. The beauty of this habit is that it honors your past while creating space for your present. You're not erasing memories, you're curating them. Diana discovered that when she stopped feeling guilty about keeping meaningful items, she naturally became more selective about what truly mattered. Have you ever noticed how overwhelming decluttering feels when you try to do too much at once? Tell me in the comments what small area you'd like to start with. After just 2 weeks of her 10-minute morning routine, Diana had cleared her entire kitchen counter, found important documents she'd been searching for, and created a peaceful space to start each day. But the real transformation was internal. She stopped feeling like decluttering was punishment and started seeing it as self-care. Number 2. The 1-in 1-out rule. With a senior twist. Now, you've probably heard of the 1-in 1-out rule before, but Diana's version had a crucial twist that made it actually work for seniors. Traditional advice says for every new item you bring home, you must get rid of 1 item immediately. But Diana realized this approach often led to hasty decisions and regret. Instead, she created the 1-in 1 consider rule. Every time she brought something new into her home, whether it was a gift, a purchase, or even something free, she would place it in a designated consideration basket by her front door. Then, within 24 hours, she would mindfully choose 1 item from the same category to either donate, gift, or recycle. The key was giving herself permission to really think about it rather than making snap decisions. When Diana's granddaughter gave her a beautiful new sweater for Christmas, instead of immediately cramming it into her already full closet, she put it in her consideration basket. The next day, she went through her sweater collection and found 3 that she hadn't worn in years but had been holding onto, just in case. She kept 1 as a backup and donated 2 to her local senior center, where she knew other women would appreciate them. This approach worked because it removed the pressure and guilt. Diana wasn't forcing herself to get rid of cherished items. She was making thoughtful choices about what deserved space in her life. The beautiful part about this habit is that it prevents the gradual accumulation that leads to clutter without making you feel deprived. You're not saying no to new things. You're saying yes to intentional living. What's something you've been holding onto that you could pass along to someone who might enjoy it more? Share in the comments. You might inspire someone else to let go of something they've been keeping out of habit rather than love. After 3 months of this practice, Diana's home stopped feeling like it was shrinking around her. She had space for new gifts and experiences without the guilt of an overflowing home. Number 3. The Sunday photo safari. This habit might sound unusual, but it became Diana's favorite part of her week. Every Sunday afternoon, she would take her phone and go on what she called a photo safari through her own home. She'd photograph areas that felt cluttered or chaotic, but here's the twist. She'd pretend she was a visitor seeing her space for the first time. What would stand out? What would feel welcoming? What would feel overwhelming? The photos were incredibly revealing. Diana discovered that her dining room table had become a permanent storage area for mail, crafting supplies, and random items that didn't have a proper home. She'd been so used to walking past it every day that she'd stopped really seeing it. But in the photo, it looked chaotic and uninviting. The photo safari wasn't about judgment, it was about awareness. Diana would look at each photo and ask herself, if my best friend came over right now, would I feel proud of this space? If the answer was no, she'd add that area to her next week's 10-minute morning sorts. But if the answer was yes, she'd celebrate that space and use it as motivation to improve the others. The most powerful part of this habit was how it helped Diana see her progress. She started keeping a before and after photo journal on her phone. When she felt discouraged or like she wasn't making progress, she could scroll back and see how far she'd come. One particularly meaningful photo showed her bedroom dresser. In the before photo, it was covered with decades of accumulated items, old perfume bottles, jewelry she never wore, and papers she'd meant to file. 3 months later, the after photo showed a clean surface with just a few carefully chosen items that brought her joy each morning. Have you ever taken photos of your space to see it with fresh eyes? Try it this week and let me know what surprises you in the comments. Diana found that the photo safari helped her stay motivated and see her home the way visitors would see it, not as a source of shame, but as a reflection of the peaceful life she was creating. Number 4. The gratitude goodbye method. One of Diana's biggest struggles was the emotional weight of letting go of items that had been part of her life for decades. She'd hold an item in her hands and feel guilty about donating it, even if she hadn't used it in years. That's when she developed what she called the gratitude goodbye method. Instead of focusing on getting rid of things, she focused on honoring what each item had given her. When Diana found her mother's china set that she'd inherited but never used, she didn't immediately think, I should donate this. Instead, she held each piece and said thank you. Thank you for connecting me to my mother's memory. Thank you for representing hospitality and family gatherings. Thank you for the comfort of knowing I had something special if I needed it. Then she asked herself, how can this continue to bring joy? Diana realized that keeping the china packed away in boxes wasn't honoring it, it was hiding it. She chose to keep 4 special pieces to display in her kitchen where she could see them daily, and she donated the rest to a young couple in her neighborhood who was just starting their life together. The gratitude goodbye method transformed decluttering from a loss into a celebration. Diana wasn't throwing away her past, she was helping her possessions find new purposes. When she found boxes of her late husband's clothes, she didn't force herself to donate everything. She kept his favorite sweater to wear on difficult days, turned another into a memory pillow, and donated the rest to a veterans organization where they would help other men in need. The key was taking time to acknowledge what each item had meant to her life before deciding its next chapter. This approach eliminated the guilt and regret that had stopped Diana from decluttering in the past. She wasn't being wasteful or ungrateful, she was being intentional about what deserved space in her current life. What's one item you've been holding onto that might be ready for a new purpose? Share in the comments. Sometimes talking about it helps us see new possibilities. Diana discovered that when she honored her possessions' past contributions, she felt free to make decisions about their future without guilt or regret. Number 5. The legacy box system. Diana's children had always worried about what would happen to all her possessions someday, and frankly, so had she. She didn't want to burden them with decades of accumulated items they might not want or understand. That's when she created her legacy box system, a way to organize her most meaningful possessions so they could tell their stories to future generations. Diana started with 3 categories: stories to share, useful to pass on, and treasures to keep. For each category, she created specific boxes with detailed labels. But here's what made this system special: Diana didn't just sort items, she wrote their stories. When she placed her grandmother's recipe box in the stories to share category, she included a letter explaining which recipes were family favorites, which ones had funny stories attached, and which ones she'd modified over the years. She photographed herself making her grandmother's apple pie and included printed photos with the recipe. The useful to pass on box contained items that still had practical value: her barely used stand mixer, quality linens, tools that were still in excellent condition. Diana researched their current value and included care instructions, so her children could make informed decisions about keeping or selling them. The treasures to keep box held items that were precious to Diana but might not seem significant to others without context. Her father's military medals, her children's baby shoes, letters from her late husband. Each item came with a story card explaining its importance and when it might be appropriate to pass it on to grandchildren. The legacy box system did something unexpected: it helped Diana rediscover treasures she'd forgotten she had. While organizing her jewelry box, she found her great-grandmother's engagement ring and realized she wanted to give it to her granddaughter for her upcoming 18th birthday rather than waiting until after she was gone. Creating these legacy boxes also gave Diana peace of mind. She knew her children wouldn't have to guess what was important or feel guilty about donating items that held no meaning for them. Everything was clearly labeled with its story and significance. Have you thought about how your possessions will tell their stories to future generations? What's one item you'd want to include in a legacy box? Share in the comments. Your story might inspire others to think about their own treasures. Diana found that organizing her legacy boxes wasn't morbid or sad, it was empowering. She was taking control of her story and ensuring her most meaningful possessions would be treasured rather than discarded. Number 6. The energy audit approach. Diana noticed that certain areas of her home drained her energy just by looking at them, while others made her feel peaceful and happy. This observation led to her energy audit approach, a way of decluttering based on how spaces made her feel rather than arbitrary rules about what to keep. Diana started by walking through each room and paying attention to her emotional responses. Her living room bookshelf, filled with books she'd loved reading, made her feel content and proud. But the closet floor, covered with shoes she rarely wore, made her feel stressed and overwhelmed every time she opened the door. The energy audit wasn't about getting rid of everything, it was about understanding which possessions and arrangements supported her well-being and which ones depleted it. Diana discovered that her kitchen counter felt chaotic not because she had too many appliances, but because she had appliances she never used taking up prime real estate. Her beloved stand mixer deserved its prominent spot because she used it weekly for her famous cookies. But the bread maker she'd used twice in 5 years was creating visual clutter and taking up valuable workspace. The beautiful part of this approach was that it was entirely personal. What energized Diana might drain someone else, and that was perfectly okay. Her extensive collection of vintage teacups made her feel connected to her travels and friendships, so they earned a place of honor in her dining room. But the stack of magazines she'd been meaning to read for months made her feel guilty and behind, so they found a new home in her building's common area where others could enjoy them. Diana learned to trust her instincts about what felt heavy versus what felt light in her space. When she felt resistance to entering a room or opening a closet, she knew that area needed attention. When she felt pleased and peaceful looking at a space, she knew she'd found the right balance. This habit helped Diana realize that decluttering wasn't about following someone else's rules. It was about creating an environment that supported her unique needs and preferences. What space in your home gives you energy, and what space drains it? Pay attention this week and let me know in the comments what you discover. Diana found that when she organized her home based on energy rather than aesthetics, she naturally gravitated toward spaces that supported her well-being and avoided areas that felt chaotic or overwhelming. Number 7. The future self-visualization. Diana's final and most powerful habit was something she called future self-visualization. Every time she faced a difficult decluttering decision, she would close her eyes and imagine herself 5 years in the future. What would 67-year-old Diana want and need? What would serve her best as she aged? This perspective shift changed everything. When Diana was deciding whether to keep her extensive collection of formal dresses from her teaching career, she didn't think about past occasions where she'd worn them. Instead, she visualized her future self. Would 67-year-old Diana attend formal events that required cocktail dresses? Probably not. Would she want to spend her precious time and limited closet space maintaining clothes she'd likely never wear again? Definitely not. Diana kept 2 of her most beloved dresses that still fit perfectly and brought back wonderful memories. The rest went to a consignment shop where they could help other women feel beautiful at special occasions. The future self-visualization helped Diana make decisions about her physical space too. She imagined herself at 70 navigating her home. Would she want to step around stacks of magazines? Would she want to dust dozens of decorative objects? Would she want to maintain a formal dining room she rarely used? This wasn't about preparing for decline, it was about preparing for freedom. Diana began to see her home through the lens of accessibility and ease. She moved frequently used items to eye level, eliminated trip hazards, and created clear pathways through every room. But the most profound changes came from imagining her future emotional needs. Diana realized that her 67-year-old self would value experiences over possessions, connections over collections, and peace over perfection. She began choosing activities over accumulation, investing in friendships over furniture, and creating space for new adventures rather than preserving reminders of old ones. This visualization technique helped Diana let go of the version of herself she used to be and embrace the person she was becoming. She wasn't getting rid of her past, she was making space for her future. The future self-visualization also helped Diana involve her family in meaningful ways. She could explain to her children that she wasn't getting rid of their childhood toys because she didn't love them. She was passing them on because future Diana would prefer to remember their childhood through photos and stories rather than storage boxes. What do you think your future self would want from your current space? Take a moment to imagine yourself 5 years from now and share one insight in the comments. Diana discovered that when she made decisions based on who she was becoming rather than who she had been, every choice felt lighter and more hopeful. 6 months after Diana started these 7 habits, her transformation was remarkable. Her once cluttered home had become a peaceful sanctuary where every item had a purpose and a place. But the real change wasn't in her possessions, it was in her relationship with them. Diana no longer felt guilty about letting go of things that no longer served her. She'd learned to honor her past while creating space for her future. Her morning 10-minute sorts had become a cherished ritual that set a positive tone for each day. The one-in-one consider rule had stopped the accumulation that used to overwhelm her. Her Sunday photo safaris helped her stay aware and motivated. The gratitude goodbye method had eliminated the emotional weight of decluttering. Her legacy boxes gave her peace of mind about the future. The energy audit approach had created a home that truly supported her well-being. And the future self-visualization had helped her make decisions from a place of hope rather than fear. Diana's friends began asking for her decluttering advice, and she realized she'd discovered something powerful. Decluttering after 60 isn't about getting rid of your life. It's about curating it. At 62, Diana had never felt more in control of her environment or more optimistic about her future. Her home had become a launching pad for new adventures rather than a museum of past experiences. If Diana's story resonates with you, I want to hear about your own decluttering journey. Which of these 7 habits feels most doable for you right now? Drop a comment below and let me know. I read every single one and often reply with personalized advice. If this video helped you see decluttering in a new light, please hit that like button and share it with someone who might need this gentle approach to creating more space and peace in their life. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell. Remember, you're not too old to create the life you want. You're just getting started on your best chapter yet. Until next time, keep creating space for what matters most.